everyone. Welcome. I am Kyra Schaefer. This is Hypnotherapy School.net, and I am with Todd Schaefer today, and we are going to talk more about that practical psychology that helps you to become a more effective practitioner with your clients, as well as helping you to become someone who knows what they're doing because you put these things into practice yourself. All right, so we're going to do something called the instant happiness cards. These are originally from the company Salad that was based in the UK. And here it is. There is only one problem, and it doesn't exist. The only problem is the idea that there are problems, that things aren't okay. In the same way that something only becomes a piece of art when someone puts a frame around it. Something only becomes a problem when someone describes it as one. The basic structure of a problem is this: things are not as they are meant to be, and I cannot be happy until they're put right. But this is a lie. You can be happy now, regardless. Start by accepting the reality of the current situation. That is not to say that there's no room for improvement, but start from the acceptance that things are the way they are, and that's okay for now. Then use your power of focus to create the circumstances you desire. There is only one problem, and it doesn't exist, Todd. How are you doing today?
Great.
Awesome. You want to dive in again?
Yes, I really like this card. Now, let me just say, I'm no expert at this. I definitely, there's a lot of things I can say.
Yeah.
This is one of my favorite cards because it just gets the ego out of the equation by choosing not to make things that happen into problems. So really, to me, that says, at what point am I going to let my ego make something a problem? If your ego's not involved, then it's not a problem. You're just doing the thing, whatever needs to be done.
Right.
This happened just the other day. Actually, I can use this for myself as an example. The other day, I thought about something I really didn't want to do, and I didn't feel like it, or didn't feel like I had a good track record with it. But it was like, you know what? There's nothing else for me to do right now. I'm just gonna do the damn thing. So I did the damn thing. I powered through it. I basically kind of decided I wasn't going to feel any better about it later. So why not get it over with?
Right.
So I just did it. I didn't make it into a problem. I didn't procrastinate. I just did it. And when I decided to do it, it really took me 20, 30 minutes. It was, as opposed to if my ego were to make it into a problem, then I would have been procrastinating and putting it off and letting that discomfort and fear and self-sabotage kind of color my days and have my ego tell me a story that you're not good enough, or you to do this, or you can't do that. But that was just conditioning. All I had to do was decide, I'm doing this damn thing. And I did it. I was tired of that stupid story my ego was telling around not feeling good about something that would trigger me into victimhood or what have you, procrastination. But I was like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm just going to do this damn thing. It just doesn't feel like an option when you're operating off of conditioning, when every time this had ever come up in the past, it was a problem. It was something that ego would not choose to produce negative feelings around to keep me in limitation. But I had done some positive conditioning, so this time when it came up, the answer was no. No, I'm making a different choice on this.
Right.
I'm making a different choice. So I did it. It was done. Ego couldn't have stopped me because I chose not to make it into a problem. I just took action. So, that's a great example of it really, really working. Of course, that's not always how it's worked.
Yeah.
And I think I would love to do it the way I did it yesterday every time. So that way I'm really kind of charging through any limitations and just getting it done and moving on to the next damn thing, you know?
Yeah.
So that's my impression of this card. I had a recent win with that, but there have been lots and lots of other times, majority I would even say, to where I would make it into a problem or make something more complex than it needed to be, and later having realized, oh, that was just my ego wanting to insert itself, or wanting to be important, or wanting to be right, or wanting to control, or whatever it was a self-imposed limitation for making it into a problem. And kind of been getting fed up with that. It's like, well, if you want to make changes, then start now. Right. I think I just hit my tolerance level the other day and said, no, I'm going from here to there. I'm not going bing, 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 like a pinball all the way to maybe getting there and probably not. It's like, no, let's just do this damn thing, and then we'll see what the next thing is. But it's not a problem.
Yeah, the how this card speaks to me, and as I was listening to you talk, one of the things that came up is when I was I guess I was in my mid-20s, and I heard somebody say, some motivational something or other, some kind of business thing say, hey, your problems, if you look at a problem and you continue to look at what's wrong with the problem, you continue to look at the things that are wrong, the things that are wrong, the things that are wrong, you're never going to get out of the problem.
Right.
But if you start to become more solution-oriented, then it becomes there's no longer any problems. They don't exist. They're just opportunities for solutions. And so when if I've looked at that, I just had something kind of come up, and I'm like, okay, is this a problem, or is it a potential opportunity for a solution? And so if I can find a solution to it, great. But then there are also times where it's okay just to let that thing go. It didn't pan out, it didn't work out, the situation didn't come up the way that you wanted it to. That's totally okay. Thank God, probably, because that means that something even better is on its way to you. So there's that kind of way that I look at this. Then of course I look at it from that ACIM, super spiritual perspective of there's nothing out there,
Right.
And the way I've said it, and I actually think I have a quote from myself, which is, we're not here to master the simulation. We are here to master ourselves in the simulation, because essentially we are just, working through our soul's development on the pathway. There are going to be obstacles. Do we let those obstacles stop us? And for how long do we let them stop us? Or do we just see them as opportunities for new strategies and new successes?
Yeah, great comments. I was taking notes while I was listening there. Last time I didn't do that, and I lost some things, but this time I got it.
Good.
But those are fantastic points. I totally agree, and it inspired me to say these things as well. One thing, like today or recently was a win for me, but a lot of times, like there have been more non-wins for making things into problems, and I didn't have the awareness to see them, to see that I was making them into problems, but I was, because with more foresight you realize, well, shoot, this really isn't a problem, or it doesn't have to be a problem. The things you said were really wonderful. One of the things I write down in my Todoist calendar reminder is, when you don't know what to do, just ask, what can I do?
Yeah.
And that helps you kind of figure out what to do next, whether it's business or whatever, or if there is a problem, like you said, reframing it, instead of focusing on the problem or saying this is a problem. I think that's how you were saying it. That just reintroduces judgment, so you get deeper and deeper.
This is what's wrong.
Yeah,
it
wrong.
stays you in victimhood.
Wrong is framing it as a judgment, but it's not wrong. That wrong is your judgment of what's happening. But this happened is just saying what happened. That's not adding a judgment on top of it. Mm-hmm. So the people who myself included, who when we frame things as being wrong, we are definitely judging the scenario.
Yeah, as wrong itself, instead of seeing the potential
Right.
that it might have within it to either move on to something else or stay there and fight for it. But
Right.
it's a choice.
Yeah, it is a choice. Absolutely, that's where I was headed. Yes, and reframing it as a solution would look more like, okay, what can we do? How can I do it? What can I do? How can we? And just, I mean, if you know anything about NLP and the subconscious mind at all, you don't have to know, actually. You don't have to know these things. All you have to know is that when I say something like, how can I? How can we? What can we do? That is a solution-oriented statement, and you're probably going to be on your way to coming up with potential ideas. Whereas if you're just saying something like, well, this is wrong, that's wrong, that's wrong, what do we do? That's wrong. Everything, the problem is kind of front and center, and the fact that something's wrong is kind of front and center.
Yeah.
So everything that you say is almost like a
It's thrown into the void.
it's just a farce. Yeah, it's just a farce.
Yeah.
Put the blank space, put the slate for the solution front and center.
Yeah.
And say, okay, what can we do? This happened. Fact, not wrong. This happened. Now, what are we going to do about it? Are we going to do this? Are we going to do that? Brainstorm. Just set your minds on the track for success. And then your mind, your subconscious mind, gets on board producing those solutions as opposed to framing it as a problem. It's really just the story we tell. That's what NLP is. What is the story we tell about what's happening?
Yeah.
And what part of our minds are helping us to go into the direction we're really wanting to go in versus not.
Yeah, and that's a good thing to do with your clients when you're working with them, is that if you start to notice them just stuck in their victimhood, they're stuck in not making a choice, they're stuck in not moving forward because they're saying, but this is bad and this is bad, this is bad, you can then start that process of reframing, just like Todd was saying. Well, what can you do? Well, if you did know what that was, what would that be? That's a very common NLP term that's used a lot during coaching. People say, well, I don't know, because they're so stuck in the problem, and they're coming to you to help them get out of that problem. One of the best questions you can ask them is, well, if you did know, what is a possibility? And then that'll pull them out of that cyclical mindset that's saying, this is wrong, this is bad, I've done this bad, this is wrong, can't, blah, 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 blah. And so once you pull them out, then you can start to really reframe them. All right, well, let's create an action plan. Let's go step by step and take small bites. Don't eat an elephant all at once.
Right.
Small bites, and help them to really process through this. And they will find success with you in it, and they're going to be like, wow, this is the best therapy I've ever had, because you're actually pulling them out of it instead of keeping them stuck in their story.
I like that. On a similar note, it's very common for people, like when we get overwhelmed and we get into the parasympathetic nervous system, the fight or flight, we start to we start to cut corners, and we don't see anything but the problem when we're really, really feeling like we're in the problem. And so overwhelm might cause us to stop or quit or cut corners or self-sabotage or whatever. And I like that you said, how do you eat an elephant? It's one step at a time.
One bite at a time.
One bite at a time, that's right. So even if you're overwhelmed, if there's a lot of things to do, just taking one step at a time is how you get through it. So the thing I'm alluding to is that if we're overwhelmed, it might cause us to stop taking bites.
Yeah.
And that is definitely self-sabotage. And you have to recognize that, not to make decisions from that place of overwhelm, but to calm down, take breaths, do things like that. Just recognize when you're setting yourself up for success or failure. And if you're feeling things, it's okay. All things are valid to feel, but know when those feelings are helping you move forward or when they're not doing you justice and moving you backward.
Right.
And then the other thing I wanted to say, which is on a slightly different note, was is the limitation I'm feeling, is what I'm feeling right now a limitation to push through, or is it just guidance for me to make a new choice? You know? So that's a really cool thing too, and I think more often than not it's gonna be a limitation. But if you're trying something for the first time and you like how it feels, then keep stepping, keep taking steps and keep taking bites, and it's hard at first to, when we don't really know ourselves emotionally, to think that those discomforting emotions are evidence, like false evidence appearing real.
Right.
And we think that feeling those things is a real brick limitation, a brick wall right in front of us, or worse, it's something absolutely true about who we are. Not true. Anything that you feel, it could be a limitation, or it could be a feeling kind of thing, but it's definitely not who you are, because emotions change over time. You might be accustomed to feeling the same crappy emotions or the same good emotions in different scenarios, but that doesn't mean that they're who you are. Absolutely
you're
not
defined by them.
No.
And you can change. You're allowed to change your mind. You can change your perspective. You can change your mind outlook. You can do all kinds of things, because that's what this is all about. We didn't come to this life to eat one type of ice cream, and that's the one type of ice cream, that's the only type of ice cream I'm ever allowed to try. We got to try those other ones and go, ugh, that one doesn't taste good, or ooh, that one's my now new favorite. We have to allow that spectrum, because otherwise we're not actually fully living. And when I think about what I want to accomplish for my life, or my soul, my purpose, my being, I'm going to taste the rainbow, because I have gotten that sense of limitation of, you're from this town, or you're from this, you went to this school, or you went to this thing, or you were in this economic background, or you were in this type of situation, you were this single parent household, or you were that, and so on. And it's like, no, those are all
circumstances.
Circumstances, but they are not my limitations. They do not define who I am. They do not. Now, they may inform my early decision making that said, oh well, I guess I'll be at this job for the next 30 years, and then I was shown something different. But I had to be allowed to be shown something different. And as you are a practitioner working with clients, you are going to start to open them up to the rainbow, to the spectrum of life that's available to them. And the more open you are yourself to that spectrum, the more you release things as problems being real and letting them go, the more you're going to be able to open your clients' minds up, and the more successful you'll be as a practitioner. I guarantee you that.
Yeah. It's we all start out in a fishbowl. It may be a very small fishbowl, or a bigger one, or a medium size, or whatever. But it's just the circumstances you come into life with, which seem like, the edges. And for a time, it's kind of an incubator, and it shows us it's our safety net.
Yeah.
And then after a while, once we develop enough, we start venturing out. And the degree to which we let ourselves venture out, when we are, of sound mind and developed enough as an adult kind of thing, even as a kid in some circumstances, but especially as an adult, those are gifts of freedom that we're giving to ourselves to try new things. Whether it's moving away from home, or whether it's starting a new business, or any kind of choice that's maybe unconventional for yourself, or not the kind of thing you might have done, or not the kind of choice that people in the fishbowl tend to make. And that can have a big influence on your development. And no matter what happens, and it tends to be very different at first, no matter what happens, it is expanding, your comfort zone and showing you that there are, in fact, other things out there to explore and to experience. And if you have a desire or a curiosity to explore those things outside of your circumstances, then you will find out that, wow, there's a lot more to know. Mm-hmm. There's a lot more to experience. There's a lot more to participate in. Yeah. And I think that's that venturing out is I've done it many times over my life, and each time kind of builds on the next one to take bigger risks out of that comfort zone so that you can experience greater freedom. Mm-hmm. and realize that you have more choices. Now, if I had never done that, if I didn't have the desire, then that's fine. No one. You don't have to do anything. Yeah. No, you can be. It's wherever you're drawn. It's whatever you're happy doing, and if you're happy staying in one spot, then that's great. There is no need to go out because you're happy.
Yeah.
If you do, however, want to expand and go out, then you're going to get whatever you expect, right? Whatever the thinker thinks, the prover proves. So the main point here is if you feel drawn to expand, please give yourself the opportunity to expand. Yeah. Because if you don't do it, no matter what it looks like, whether it's a proximity thing or a going inward or an outward or a letting yourself do something small that you never gift yourself, and no one would even know if you did it. So it's very safe to start there, kind of thing. But if it's in your heart to try something different or new, whether it's big or small, whether anyone else knows about it or not, let yourself do it. Let yourself have that, because the last thing you would want is to resent that you hadn't at any point in time. Yeah. And psychologically, it can be very easy to fall into a rut or fall into a pattern of thinking that the longer that you don't do anything, the harder it is to not do anything sometimes.
Or the easier it is to not do anything.
Sorry, yes.
Keep not doing what you're not doing.
Yeah, the more we operate within a limitation, whether we think it's a limitation or not, the easier it is to keep rolling on that path. And whereas let's say when you were a little bit younger, it would have felt a little bit easier to go out and do that.
Right,
now maybe your circumstances were different, but let's say they weren't. Your brain was more agile at a younger age. So stay agile is the goal. Stay agile. Keep playing, keep exercising, keep letting yourself take those risks, and small risks or small steps out of the comfort zone. And you can be in your comfort zone for certain things and step out of your comfort zone for other things, and get to have more neuroplasticity, because you're letting yourself make different choices and allowing the scope of who you are as you perceive yourself to expand, and that can be very rewarding. Yeah,
agreed. One of the things that
fulfilling,
I think it was Barbara DeAngelis who said, well, she may have paraphrased it or took it from somewhere else, but just because something feels bad doesn't mean something good isn't happening. So if the problem that's presenting itself to you, it feels bad, that's okay. That doesn't mean that there's not something good that can come from it. And I think that when you work with your clients and you reframe them in this way, and you reframe yourself in this way, you will absolutely be able to transform old limiting beliefs that make problems bad. So one of the parts of this card says, the problem doesn't exist. Well, if you really take it as being a part of that truth, which I do believe that's a truth, is that problem doesn't exist, is saying we make it what it is. So we give everything the meaning that it has. And since we give everything the meaning it has, we get to choose the meaning. And if nothing means anything, that's fine. But let's take a stepping stone, right, to that place. And that stepping stone is that you give your clients the meaning to their problems, so you get to help them to reframe it, shift it, change it, and make it more manageable so that they can transform it. There are certain things that people just tend to have a really hard time around. Maybe it's something that's very tangible, or something that you say, well, this is who I am, this is who I've always been, and it's got that very evidential standpoint, because there's constantly evidence saying that you're not enough, or you didn't do this right, or things are going wrong, or there's not enough money, or whatever the problem might be, as I put it in air quotes. And so we have to allow ourselves to step out of the evidence-based proof and say, okay, this feels bad, but that doesn't mean something good isn't happening, and say, okay, how is it good? What is it doing? And we've kind of covered that, what can I do? Now it's like, well, how can I feel differently about this? How can I make this, can I reform this in my consciousness and say, okay, well, I can't do that, but I can do this. Or I can't feel that, but I can feel this. All right, let me switch my focus and put it all in the good things that I can feel, all the good things I can experience, all the good things that are going right for me. And when you do that with your clients, you're going to find that they're going to shift that awareness quickly. And one of the things the card was also saying is that once that point of attention shifts, everything in their life is going to shift. It won't happen immediately, so we don't do one and done sessions, right? It takes time to make this point of attraction different, but the longer they do it, the incremental shifts will happen over time, and they'll happen relatively quickly once that momentum starts going.
Right. You crack the door open, and then it's easier to push open.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But the first part is turning the doorknob, and that's a little bit harder.
Yeah, it might be rusty.
That's it.
Yeah, I like that. Wonderful comments. We don't know. I'll add. We don't know when we're choosing meaning. A lot of us don't know. I mean, as much as I know about meaning, I still know that I make things mean things that don't necessarily mean anything, because I'm projecting the meaning that it has. What does that mean? Well, that means I am bringing my past into the present. How would I react if I had no past? Well, I wouldn't react at all, probably. I wouldn't know what anything would mean.
How does that work?
I've got a funny example. I had a friend who accidentally squirted ketchup on her kid when she was feeding him, and it was a complete accident, and shot it right in his face, kind of thing.
Oh, God.
And it was just sitting there looking at her, and totally fine. And she kind of stopped herself from laughing. She was giggling on the inside, and didn't want to laugh out loud. But he wasn't at the point in his development to where he understood or had a sense of meaning for like dignity or embarrassment or anything like that. He was just a baby, and it didn't trigger a crying response. He just didn't know what the hell was going on. It wasn't uncomfortable physically. It just kind of was there. So without meaning, there wasn't a problem. So that was a pretty cool thing. So the next time, what's the moral of the story here? The next time you get squirted with ketchup, please don't make meaning out of it. It's really not intentional, more than likely.
Well, the thing that naturally brings my mind in is that if she had have laughed out loud, he would have probably laughed as well, because of mirror neurons.
Right.
So he would have laughed out loud at her laughing out loud, not because he understands anything about ketchup being squirted. And so as then later on, he'll call that memory back up if he gets squirted on again, and he will laugh again.
Right.
And so that's, to me, I think is really interesting, because now if she would have gone, oh no,
Yeah.
oh no, I'm
Right.
so sorry, then he would react, oh, there's
Something's
something
wrong.
wrong. Yeah.
There's a
And so
problem.
I think that I see really parents who do this with their kids when their kids fall down and they, hurt their knee or their elbow or something
Right.
like that. And the kid and the parent just like starts laughing or starts being like, oh my goodness, get on up, let's do this again. They have then conditioned a different mindset into that child. But if they start going, oh no, you must be so hurt. Oh, that's so bad. Oh, that looks so bad.
Yeah.
Look at that cut.
That's a
and then the
projection.
kid will lose their
Right.
mind and start crying. I've seen it over and over and over again.
Projection.
Yeah. So where do all these automatic responses come from?
Conditioning.
Conditioning. And so sometimes, just like I said in the previous video, we don't hypnotize people. We dehypnotize them.
people.
And so because we have to unravel all of the meaning that was placed in their consciousness before they were 7 years old.
Right.
And that's where it all
Right.
kind of comes from.
Excellent comments. And she didn't have to hold back her laugh because he didn't have any meaning to it.
Yeah.
And I think a positive response, like you said, would have been awesome. And then, as an adult, that kid would be loving the mud races and getting all dirty. And,
Right.
because
Skirting ketchup on other people.
his future wife would be like, well, how come you love this so much? I don't know. I remember getting squirted with ketchup, and it was a fun experience.
I really enjoyed that. Yeah. It's a funny thing.
Yeah, the story, the judgment, the conditioning. Yeah, it doesn't end either. It just becomes more synthesized and more unconscious and subconscious in terms of the emotions, the unconscious and subconscious kind of produces in our behavior to keep all that stuff true until we choose to change the meaning and challenge it, right? And wise up and not just succumb to it, which is victimhood in a nutshell. That's what being asleep means until people are dehypnotized and woken up from that. Mm-hmm. And being curious and questioning these things is how it starts. Yeah. Curiosity is a very good thing. Wondering, well, what if I did something differently? What if I tried this? What if I tried that? Absolutely do that. And whenever you hear your client talk that way, fan those flames. Mm-hmm. It's really going to help them. And another thing on a very similar note is just, how do I make a change if I was, this is how it's always been. This is me. This is my pain. Da 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 da. Okay, well, here's the answer. It starts with, let's start really simple. You don't have to know anything about psychology. Just start telling a different story. Start telling yourself a different story, about what happened or the opportunities that were provided that something happened that you thought was wrong afforded you to do. Maybe it stopped you from making that choice again. List all the ways that something can be good that seemed to be wrong at the time. And I think you'll find that there might be a lot of good that came out, or there might be a lot of positive things that you chose as a result of something that you felt was wrong happening at one time. These are just examples, but it starts with reframing the story and telling a different story. If it's really in your heart to get out of a situation or to change, flip the script. Change the story. Make a new choice. If something's bad enough or abusive enough or whatever, if you know when it's time to get out, you have enough wherewithal to get out. How does that happen? Well, it happens with you making a different choice. That choice may look like getting the hell out of there, or phoning a friend, or what have you.
Yeah.
Or if it's completely an internal game and not an external game, it might come with saying, hey, you know what? I'm going to start talking this way about me. This feels better. I'm tired of that same old story of saying, I'm awful or I'm bad or whatever. But I'm confident. I feel good. I'm working on feeling better. I know that things are in the process of improving for me. I'm taking one little step every day that's going towards my goal, right? One foot in front of the other, one step in front of the other, and that really makes a big difference.
Yeah, and I think as you're kind of working with your clients and you're seeing them transform before you, it really is going to be because of this particular thing, is reframing the problems, helping them see that they're not problems, helping them see that where they are. I think that that's the biggest thing as well. For me, when I started listening to Abraham Hicks, one of the things that I heard her say was, you are where you are. You are where you are. And you can't be anywhere other than where you are, so just be where you are. You are here. You are where you are. And I remember thinking, I was like, okay, stop repeating yourself. But then I realized that that repetition was so important, and why it's so important in hypnosis as well, because repetition helps to create new belief systems in the psychology. It was, because my thoughts kept on coming up again and again and again. This is the problem. This is the problem. Well, you are where you are. This is the problem. You are where you are. This is the problem. And then eventually my mind started to shift over and go, hey, it's okay. I am where I am. Every time I would do my own automatic response to my own negative thinking. So I would say, you know what? You are where you are. And immediately, well, not normally immediately, but after a few rounds, I would start to relax. So when you're working with your clients, they're going to be coming to you with problems, and you are going to have to show them that they do not exist in the way, at least minimally, in the way that they think they do. And so you get a massive opportunity here to start changing lives immediately.
I like that. Every NLP card that I've read is always about reframing some kind of limitation. And this card is a good one to have drawn early on in these videos here because it's so basic, calling attention to that something isn't a problem unless you make it a problem. Something isn't a limitation unless you've made it a limitation. And if you're not aware of the limitation, then, well, you may be drawn to have someone help you to become aware of the limitation. As is in the case with the NLP practitioner. Right. And another thought came up that was good to mention in this type of a talk, and that is accepting where you are is definitely, like if you feel drawn to do something else, then give yourself permission to step through limitation and take one bite at a time to get there, right? The good feeling is guiding you to take those steps, even if there's discomfort, even if you have to be a little bit brave, you know that it's a good direction for you, right? Mm-hmm. So that's why we take steps. That's why we are courageous. Courage is feelings. You can't have courage without fear. You're going to feel some fear, but you're choosing to have courage to take steps into a healthier direction for you, and ultimately be in a whole different place that's much better than where you decided you wanted to leave from, right? Giving you more freedom, more fulfillment, whatever it may be, right? So those good feelings, which may require some bravery because there's some discomfort stepping out of fear, are leading you step by step to where you want to go. That's your motivation, right? That's what we've been saying so far. One of the things. This is not to be confused with this next thing I'm about to say, which is, Kyra touched on it. It's accept where you are, right? You don't have to be somewhere else or someone else to be acceptable. So there's a difference there. In the first example, you're feeling good about being courageous and taking steps to go where you want to go, to have what you want to have, to be who you want to be, to have a new experience of yourself. The second example is, I don't feel good about myself, and I'm having to do I want to do these things because I don't feel good about myself, which doesn't really get me out of my current situation if it's a bad one. It just, it makes me feel maybe temporarily better. Maybe it's an addiction, maybe it's alcohol or whatever. That's whatever kind of an example, but you may or may not know what's like a healthy stepping stone. But the thing I'm trying to say here is you don't have to become something else or someone else in order to be valid. You are valid right now being who you are. You are acceptable, holy, lovable, and worthy being who you are. Now, how do you want to experience that? If you're still telling the story of I'm not good enough and I've got to do X, Y, Z in order to become better, then that is self-defeating. That is not a healthy thing, right?
Right.
So you're not really going anywhere. You're kind of going down more, and it's probably going to feel not that great. And everything that is a gain is going to feel not like it's much of a gain.
Right.
So you're just taking invalidity and making yourself feel worse, even though you're trying to put gold glitter on it.
Mm-hmm.
That's different from I feel good about taking a choice. I'm addressing fear. I think the difference might be taking fear, addressing the fear or not.
Mm-hmm.
One's like I'm still in victimhood. I'm responding to the fear and I'm putting gold glitter on it by trying to make a cosmetic change.
Right.
But ultimately, I stay in the same spot.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas the other one is, okay, I'm taking responsibility for this fear. Yeah, it feels scary to feel it, but I am taking this step anyway into the direction that I want to go in. And that makes me feel, that's scary, but it's out of my comfort zone. I feel the fear, I feel that limitation, but I took the step anyway, and then I had a different experience of myself as a result. What was the experience? Well, I didn't die, so that fear isn't valid.
Yeah.
And
if you did die, you're not listening to this anyway.
And something,
right? So it's fine.
Right.
But I didn't die.
You're listening to this video. You're still here, and then you were like, "Hey, look at that!" It might feel exhilarating.
Yeah.
Because
it is. It is very.
Often it is because you've literally overcome a limitation in the mind of fear by stepping out of that comfort zone, stepping through a fear of some sort. And it doesn't have to be huge. Remember, just inch by inch is a cinch, right? Just break it down into steps.
Test and measure.
One bite at a time is how you eat that elephant.
Yeah. Get information.
Right.
Oh, that felt bad. Ooh, that felt way too bad. I'm not going to bungee jump off a bridge. Okay.
Right.
I get, but at least I tried it once or whatever. I will never bungee jump off a bridge. I just want everybody to know that.
Right.
That's not in the stars for me. But there are other things that I do feel good about trying, even though they are a little bit scary. So we're not asking you to,
do anything that's something that's ultimately not going to be serving you.
Yeah, or healthy or whatever.
I mean,
and that for your clients as well. Don't ask them to jump off a bridge if they're not really wanting to jump off a bridge. Let them take that small, manageable step. And we don't know what's a small step for them and what's a large step, what's too big of a bite versus what's too small of a bite. Right. And they might need to take several small bites before they're like, okay, I can do a little bit more. Yeah.
And I like that. Yeah. A whole elephant would give you indigestion and maybe kill you. But one bite at a time is better. And here's a little life hack for you. In my experience working with thousands of clients, by the time someone is booking a session with you, they pretty much know already what they need to do.
Yeah.
They just need a little bit of confidence and a supporter and helping to walk through it. It's almost like they already know what experience they want to have, or they wouldn't be putting up money, spending money with you in order to get them closer to that experience. If someone really wasn't ready, or really didn't want to be there, they're either seeing you and they have the wrong set of expectations, or they just wouldn't be in your chair because you would be like, you if someone wasn't ready, you'd say, why are you here? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was gonna make a joke.
But I mean, we've definitely have had clients like that, who have had such a hard time just figuring out where they are in their experience and what it is that they need. So I think, when you study with us at hypnotherapieschool.net, one of the things, and we do live programs too, so it's not all online, but one of the things we do teach you is how to do an NLP Outcome Model with your clients to help find out what it is they really want, because sometimes they come in, they're distraught, they don't know what they want, they don't know who they are, they don't know where they want to go in their life, and they are just pleadingly looking at you going, please fix this for me. And you're like, well, I can't do that, but I can ask you these questions that will help bring you into more of awareness of what it is that you're really wanting, what you really need, what resources you already have, right, and what resources do you need. So there's a lot to this, I know, and it just seems like such a simple thing. There's only one problem, and it doesn't exist, is the statement. And so for me,
it's a launch pad.
It's a launch pad
for our discussion.
There's so much that we can unwind here. But the main thing is that you reframe this for yourself and for your clients is the primary goal.
That's the main thing. Pain is a big motivator, and we can go down any rabbit hole we wanted to, but we'll keep it pretty tight and just really reel it in here. So but generally, whether people have a positive motivation or a negative, a pleasure-based motivation or a pain-based motivation, those are usually one of the two factors that determine why someone's even going to come to see you. Mm-hmm. And if they don't have either of those things working, then they may not be aware of why they're there, or they came in for a different reason than they thought.
Yeah.
But at any rate, that's wonderful information. I love what we covered about it. I think we explored some cool
areas,
cool circumstances and examples, and I think these cards are just a wonderful launch pad for the discussion.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot that we've experienced, a lot of meaning that we can bring to the conversation
right.
Based on these cards and our experience, which is going to be relevant for anyone who is starting their hypnotherapy practice.
Absolutely. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining us. I am Kyra Schaefer.
This is Todd Schaefer.
And you can find us out at hypnotherapieschool.net. We are going to be starting live classes soon, and we look forward to putting those together for you so that you can become a clinical hypnotherapist that is not just looking at clients from a one-dimensional perspective, but from all dimensions and all facets to help them to grow and transform. Thank you so much. Have a great day.